Hello, everyone. My name is Kanda Sankarapandian. I'm a senior solution architect with Amazon Honeycode. And today we're going to look at how to improve team productivity through apps built without programming on Amazon Honeycode. So thanks for taking the time to learn about Honeycode. I'll provide a quick overview of the service from the point of view of the business user who wants to get their work done more efficiently using Honeycode. After the slides, I'll show a short demo showing how easy it is for business users to build apps using Honeycode. And speaking with our customers, we hear often teams need custom workflows and information tracking systems, but have to make do with using overstretched tools like spreadsheets or even inflexible off-the-shelf software. So your tools really should be evolving as your business needs change, but that typically requires you to request for IT assistance, and that frequently outpace even the best resource departments, leaving teams to find their own solutions. Lack of IT resources is common, particularly in cost centers such as customer support, HR, finance, and facilities. Rather than figuring out time-intensive workarounds using existing office productivity software, your employees' ingenuity should really be used to improve the businesses. So what if you could build a better way to work without waiting on IT? Honeycode was created to help teams solve their business process problems. Before we get started, I wanted to quickly mention why we launched Honeycode as a beta. Today, Honeycode includes the features you need to solve team-sized business process problems. Honeycode does not yet currently support use cases such as public apps or features such as multiple development environments that are typically needed to deploy apps to, say, 10,000s of users within an enterprise. The Honeycode apps you create today are fully functional, and the same app will continue working when Honeycode transitions to general availability. I can share a date when GA will happen, but AWS is continually improving the service based on the features our customers request. So Honeycode makes it easy for program managers, business analysts, HR managers to solve their team productivity challenges. Typical Honeycode teams ranges from a few users and even up to a few hundred. To help our customers solve their business process problems, we built Honeycode as an all-in-one solution that allows you to build fast and iterate quickly, all without coding. To help teams stay in the loop, Honeycode uses a common database to ensure your team can access the most up-to-date data. No more sending spreadsheets back and forth via email and trying to figure out who has the most recent and up-to-date copy. Honeycode saves builders time because it automatically creates both a desktop app and a mobile app. To avoid information overload and keep a team's data safe, Honeycode allows you to put the right information in front of the right user at the right time. Typical use case for this would be to create a view-only version of an app that would be distributed widely. And then you can create maybe an individual contributor app where end users can actually update data in that app. And finally, you can also create maybe a manager app that allows you to do even more elevated tasks. Honeycode includes built-in automations that can automatically notify the team when there's an update or remind people when it's their turn to take action. To make it easy for non-technical builders to create apps, we simplified the app creation process. Your first simple application can replace existing email and spreadsheet-based business processes. Honeycode also provides the power to handle complex workflows across departments. To get started, there are 4 simple steps to build and share apps in Honeycode. Tables provide both the familiar spreadsheet capabilities and the power of a database. Anybody can create apps using the Visual App Builder. Use automations built using wizards with just a few clicks to automate a lot of the manual tasks. Administrators control who could access data based on who they invite to the team. You can connect your company's Active Directory to Honeycode using AWS Directory Services. If you don't need SSO, you can sign up on the honeycode.aws website. Finally, builders have control over their data using workbooks, which are containers for all the tables, apps, and automations related to a project. A builder can share at either the workbook or the app level with their teammates. So tables are where you store your data. So tables can be linked together and can run calculations just like a spreadsheet. The Visual App Builder makes it simple to connect your data to your apps and control who can see or edit the data. You can also create different apps for each end user persona and share it with them. Automations can run based on user actions within the app or be triggered based on time or events. For example, you could create an automation that routed, say, a high priority task to a manager for review while auto-approving simple requests based on the team needs. After you have created your app, just share it with your team. They can access apps customized for their needs using either a browser or through the Honeycode player they downloaded from the Google or Apple app stores. Most builders get started by importing data from a CSV or simply pasting their information into the tables. Honeycode's APIs allow information to flow into and out of Honeycode. Currently, the APIs require IT level skill sets to set up. But for more information on the APIs, please see the developer tools section of the community forum. Some more details on the API. If you are a builder with IT level skills, you can make use of Honeycode APIs to integrate Honeycode with your existing systems. Honeycode has two APIs, get screen data to read data from your app screens, and invoke screen automation to execute the automation on your app screens, which in turn can add, update, and delete data. So we'll cover what automations mean during the demo, and I'll show you how you can set up one to do these kind of actions. Finally, Honeycode APIs are available in the Plus and Pro plans. You can share the workbook with select teammates who need access to the tables and build apps. And you typically would share apps to everyone else in your team to view and modify the data. So when building apps, only add data that can be shared with users. Your app users don't have access to data that isn't in the app. For example, imagine you want to create a team directory app whose data comes from a table that contains each team member's name, location, and work email. That same data source also includes their social security number and salary information. In this case, you will add just the shareable information into your app and leave out the sensitive information, maybe for a different application that you can create and share with just your HR department. You can also limit which rows from your table are displayed to app users by making use of filters. Filters are similar to VLOOKUP function in Excel, but provides even more flexibility in querying data from your tables. For example, you have a table with budget items for the year with a column for each quarter, and you want app users to access only the budget items for the current quarter. You can use a filter to show just the quarterly data in your application. Honeycode provides you multiple templates, and they are a great foundation to get you started. And you can customize them later to suit your needs. They are also a useful way to learn new tips and tricks in building the Honeycode apps that you want. So we created these templates that you see on the screen here based on common use cases that our customers are currently using Honeycode to solve. This includes task trackers in the form of a simple to-do list for individual task management and a team task tracker where you can have team-wide collaboration and have tasks for individuals and also have an overview application for the manager to look at what tasks the teams are working on. You can also make use of the event management template as well as the related weekly demo schedule template to kind of manage the various events that you may be organizing or even conduct product demos like the one I'm doing right now. You can also create a lightweight customer relationship management app using the customer tracker template. This is a great starting point if you wanted to replace maybe a spreadsheet-based process where you were keeping track of which customers have been contacted and at what date into something that's more manageable and also keeps you on top of the things you need to do from a customer relationship standpoint. The inventory management template allows you to check out assets and keep track of your inventory. So that's a great template to start with if you have a inventory or asset management use case that you want to solve. And finally, the field service agent template supports your mobile workforce to review customer information and also to complete work orders, all on the mobile phone using the Honeycode Player app. And the list of templates keeps growing. So if you visit the Honeycode forums, you will actually see that we are releasing new templates based on what customers are using Honeycode for. So you can get started quickly with building your first Honeycode application. Speaking of, I highly encourage everyone to visit honeycodecommunity.aws for help and training. So app building support is provided using these forums. This community includes both users and Honeycode moderators. The forum also has some tutorials, which are free online classes where you can learn how to build your apps using Honeycode. The community site also includes a number of how-to articles and videos. Honeycode's pricing makes building multiple apps affordable. You pay the same for one app or 100 apps. Users are the number of people in your team that you can share workbooks or apps with. Rows refer to the maximum number of rows in your largest workbook. A Honeycode Basic account is free and provides you with up to 20 users, and each workbook can have up to 2,500 rows. If you need a larger max row limit or more than 20 users, you can upgrade to either the Plus or Pro tier. The paid tiers also provide you the ability to use the API or SSO using AWS Directory Services. For example, if a team had 23 users and their largest workbook was 6,000 rows, they would need the Plus tier. The cost would be $19.99 per month for the first 20 users, and the 3 extra users would each cost $9.99 per month. So the total cost would be about $50 per month. With that, I'm going to switch and show a demo of a couple of Honeycode applications. The first demo that I'm going to show is a Honeycode app that I would call as a medium complexity. This was an app that is currently being used in AWS data centers, where our data center managers have the responsibility of making safety observations. This process used to be done via a paper and a clipboard that the manager would take and walk around. And whenever they observed a safety violation, they would make note of that in this paper document, come back to their desk, fill in information that they captured into a system, and then the managers, the regional and national managers, would be able to take actions based on these observations. So we studied this process and thought of a way to make that simpler and better by building this application using Honeycode. So the screen you're seeing here would be the screen that the manager who's doing the safety observation will start with. To begin, I'm going to select the facilities that I'm typically part of. So I'm going to pick SEA02, and select a category for the safety observation that I'm going to do. In this case, I'm going to choose cutting tool use. The scenario here being, I just noticed a vendor who was using a cutting tool in an improper and unsafe manner. So I'm going to report that safety observation using this tool. So as soon as I selected the category, it previews the types of questions that are going to be asked. So I'm going to hit begin. I'm going to select who this observation is about. So I'm going to select a vendor, type in a name for the vendor, add that. So the safety violation I noticed was that the person doing the cutting did not use a cut-resistant glove. So I'm going to mark that activity as at risk. So I want to draw your attention to the optional notes column here. As soon as I make my selection to be at risk, it's going to automatically recognize that I need to fill in some more additional information to characterize why this particular safety observation was made. So I'm going to say cutting gloves were not used. The other category of observation all passed, so I'm going to just mark them as such. And once I make my selections and I'm happy with it, I'm going to submit it. So that completes the observation that I did for this safety violation. So rather than doing this in a paper, transferring it to another system, I'm able to do all of it right at the spot where I made the observation at. Once I start entering this kind of data, I can then create a separate app. So this, now I've switched personas, and I'm going to be the regional or national manager who's responsible for looking at safety across all my data centers. As you can see in the drill down screen, the entry that I just entered has shown up already. So all data that you enter in Honeycode is synchronized in real time to all your users. So that way, as soon as my manager at the data center level entered a safety observation, everybody in the team is made aware of it. So if a particular vendor, say, has been violating or has been observed to violate safety regulations multiple times, I could even set up an automation to notify the vendor directly saying, there have been this many observations against you, and maybe a corrective action needs to be taken. Aggregation can also be done across my managers. So I can create a little gamified dashboard for my managers to see how well they are performing against their peers. And I can, of course, create other reports that I can filter based on various criteria. I'm also able to export all this data. So I created a special app just for my API to export this data that has been collected over a period of time. And once I have the data available in my visualization tools like Amazon QuickSight, I can create other analysis and visualizations that can be shared with my business users who can look at the data and infer additional information. With that, I'm going to switch gears now and show how you could create your own Honeycode app by taking the example of a team task tracker app. Like I mentioned, you can always start with a template, and there's even a template that closely matches what the team task tracker you typically would build, but that would reduce this demo to just a couple of minutes. So rather than that, I'm going to build from scratch and show you the various aspects of Honeycode. A lot of our customers already have a spreadsheet-based process that they would like to improve. And so you can always import your existing spreadsheet and start from that as your data source. In this case, I'm just going to start from scratch. And when I do that, Honeycode is going to create the workbook, which again is the container for your data and apps. So I'm going to rename my workbook to Team Task Tracker. And the first of the tables that I'm going to create is going to be my task table. So this will be a table which I will use to keep track of all the tasks that my team is working on. So the data for this table is actually stored in a spreadsheet. So I'm going to go copy that information from my spreadsheet, come back in here, and just paste that information. Honeycode automatically recognizes those different columns and even adds the column headers for you based on the first row of data that was imported. Now, if you notice here, I've got some repetitive information, like the set of projects that any particular task belong to, and even status information that has been repeated across the different rows. A common problem with this kind of a data model is that if you say wanted to rename a project, you would have to do a find and replace and hope that you made the change across all your data so there's no data inconsistencies. Honeycode makes it easier to solve that problem by creating something called a pick list. To do that, I'm actually going to make use of a Honeycode feature called Wizards that allows me to create pick lists automatically. So I'm going to select that option under data modeling, and Honeycode automatically recognizes that I've got a couple of columns which are ideal candidates for pick lists. So I'm going to hit go, and what that's going to do is set up a table to show the relationship between my projects and tasks, and same way for my statuses and tasks. So now if I wanted to say rename a project, so I'm going to rename Honeycode to Amazon Honeycode. The change that I just made will be automatically reflected across all the linked cells in my task table. I'm going to do one more step for my data modeling. So I'm going to select my owner column here, hit on formats, and select a format called contact. What this allows me to do is select any of my teammates to be the owner of a task. So I'm going to select myself for the first of those tasks, and I can, in fact, copy myself across those cells. I'm going to leave those other ones as is. Let's say if I wanted to create a view where I wanted to see tasks grouped by an owner, I can actually do that again by making use of the wizards and doing a summary table. So in this case, I chose the summarize option, and I'm going to summarize it by the owner column. And let's rename that table that's going to be created to summarize that as task_owner. So when I hit next, the wizard would automatically create the table and establish that relationship between this task by owner table. And in fact, clicking on any one of these cells will show you the kind of related task that is owned by this particular person. So the next step typically would be to expose this data using applications that our end users are going to be using. I'm going to start by creating a very simple app to show my task. So this is a personalized view of the task that I am the owner of. So I'm going to call that app as my task and rename the screen to say the same. This is the app builder, the visual drag and drop interface for building the applications that you want with Honeycode. And the way you do that is by adding a screen, renaming as I just showed you, and then adding these different user interface objects. So we've got objects to display the data from the table. That would be things like data cells, to add labels using content boxes, add user interaction by adding these buttons that the user can click on, and we can define those buttons to do a specific automation, like adding a row or updating a row and what have you. For this demo, I'm going to make use of a column list, and this is an easy way to retrieve and show the data that is stored in a table, in this case, the task table. And I want to show in a columnar way the tasks, the projects, the status of each of the tasks. I don't really want the owner column to be displayed here because it's going to be personalized to just the task that I own. And I also don't want the notes to clutter the view in this screen. Rather, I want to view those information maybe in a detail screen. So I can just check that, and it's going to add a special detail screen for me to view additional details. I can also allow my users to filter the list, say by the project or by the status. So let's hit create. And what that's going to do is create an application with the column list view to view all the tasks in my task table. As you can see, there's quite a few tasks in here. And if you recall, I was actually the owner only for a few of them. So we need a little more personalization to view just my tasks. And to do that, you have the personalization option down here, where all you have to do is select the owner so that the tasks that are going to be shown to the user will be filtered to be the ones that they are the owner of. So if I were to go back to my task view, it's now filtered to show just the 3 tasks for which I am the owner of. If you notice, I did not have to reload the application anytime I was making those changes. And that's because Honeycode keeps not only the data, but also your applications across all your users in sync in real time. So let's go back to the application builder and build one other application. And this one is going to be a team task tracker that I will be sharing with my team manager. So I'm going to make use of an app wizard in this case, just to save me the time. So I'm going to select the task as a source for this app wizard. And as soon as I do that, Honeycode is going to create the most commonly used application screens. In this case, it's going to be a list screen to start with. And just like in the other example, I'm able to remove data screens and columns that I don't want my app users to be seeing, even reorder the columns if I wanted to, all through drag and drop. And when I hit next, it's going to show additional screens that would be created by the app wizard. So when a user clicks on any one of those tasks, it's going to come into the detail screen where they can view additional details, including the notes and what have you. And at this level, typically you can also make fields editable. So the owner field at this time was not editable. I just made it editable by clicking that little pencil icon. So this would allow a manager to go in and change the owner for a particular task if they so choose to. The next screen you're going to see created by the app wizard automatically for you is a task form screen. This is a screen you would use to add new tasks into the system. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to hit apply. And I'm going to add one additional screen here. And this would be to just view tasks by the owner of that task. So let's call the screen tasks by owner and add the screen into our application. With those few simple clicks, I just created another application that I can now share with my team managers who can view everyone's tasks across their team, click on any one of those tasks and make changes to them if they so chose to. They can also view, thanks to the pick lists and the summary tables we created, tasks grouped by a project or tasks grouped by specific owners. So all these additional detail screens are automatically created for you because we were able to utilize the wizard and also the data modeling that we did in the previous step. All right, let's go back to the task builder. And I'm going to add another table to show some additional best practices that you can follow as you are building these applications. So one of the things that you can do is import the CSV file. And I'm going to create, in this case, an employees table. by importing data that I already had in the CSV file and renaming that to, let's say, employees. So if you recall from the presentation deck, this is an example where I've got a source table where I've got information that may be useful for my teammates to know, like my location and how can I be contacted. But I also have additional information such as the social security number and salary information that is sensitive, and you do not want anybody in the system to be able to view that. So to do that, I'm gonna go into my task screen and add a new screen for viewing my teammates. Just like before, I'm going to make use of the column list to add all my teammates in here. And all I have to do as an app builder is make sure I don't select any sensitive information and only add the shareable information into my app. So when I do that, and I go back to my task app and click on my team, you can see that I'm only able to see the name, the location, and the email of my team and not the other sensitive information. So if you do not add those data into your application, it'll never get sent to your users and they will not be able to view such information. Another common practice, if you were to look at my team app or my task app, you see that I've got tasks that are currently active and also some tasks that have been marked as completed. To tidy this up and not show information that may not be relevant to the user, you can make use of filters. So let me go back to my task view, select this list, and currently it's showing all the tasks that are in my task table. And I'm going to apply the filter Honeycode function to show just the tasks which have not been set as completed. To do that, I'm going to write this expression where it says task status is not equal to completed. When I do that and go back to my task view, just a second, it should auto update and show that the task that was previously marked as completed is no longer displayed under my task. So from the 3 tasks that I had, I now only have a couple of them. Another place where you could potentially use this kind of functionality is to prevent, say, rewriting history for completed tasks. Let's assume in this case, we do not want the team manager to update the owner for any given task when the task has already been marked as completed. To do that, all you'd have to do is select that editable cell, duplicate it by copying and pasting it, and selecting one of them as and marking them as not editable. So now you've got 2 data cells, one that is editable and one that is not editable. And the way you can kind of toggle between them is by using the visibility control. So here, I want this non-editable owner to be displayed anytime the status of the task is marked as completed. I'm going to do the inverse of this to check and show the editable task view. So with that simple toggle, if I were to go back to my task app, and if I click on any task that has not been marked as completed, I can still make changes to it. But if I were to go into a completed task, even the team manager is not able to make changes to the owner field. So those are just some best practices when you're building your Honeycode application. Now, with any typical task tracker, you would want to have some notifications that go out, say, whenever the owner of a task is assigned a new task. So to do that, I'm going to make use of wizards to create the automations that is going to send out these notifications. So the first of those is going to send out a notification anytime I'm assigned a new task. To do that, I just select for alerts to changes in the owner column, alert the owner that a task has been assigned to them. Another common reminder for the task tracker application is to remind people when a particular task is due. And I can do that by setting a reminder. In this case, it is triggered automatically based on the due date column, and it'll remind the owner. So the wizard auto recognize you have these types of columns, and this is a typical automation that you would want to do for this kind of data. So I'm going to hit go. And what that just did is create a couple of automations for me. So if I were to select one of them, it'll show that the first of these starts whenever there's a change in the owner column, and it sends a notification email to the owner saying you have a new task that has been assigned to you. They can click on that task or that alert and come into Honeycode and take the appropriate action. Let's give that a try by making a change in one of the tasks. So I'm going to pick a task that has not been assigned to me. I'm going to select that and assign it to me. And as soon as I do that, I get a notification right in the Honeycode app, but I will also be getting the same notification via email and also as push notification if I had the Honeycode mobile player app installed on my mobile phone. So with a few simple actions and almost no coding, I was able to create the data model for a task tracker, build a couple of applications, a personalized application for my task that can be shared with any employee to view just their task, and a team task tracker that can be shared with a team manager to make and keep an overview of all the tasks that are happening within the team. And finally, we've got automations to ensure that all the tasks are appropriate actions taken on them as and when required, when a new task is assigned to you or when a task is approaching its due date. That concludes the demo portion of this presentation. And with that, I welcome everyone to give Amazon Honeycode a try by signing up at honeycode.aws. If you would like to use Honeycode with your Active Directory SSO, please let your account team know. Please note that teams that are started using email signup on the web cannot be moved over to SSO in the future. For any additional information, please contact honeycode-bd@amazon.com. Thank you.